Hi dear students, in the last class we discussed chapter 5, the partition of Bengal and the Swadeshi movement. And today we are going to see chapter 6, factors leading to the formation of the Muslim League. And we had learned about the different national movements and the formation of Indian National Congress. And now we are going to see the formation of the Muslim League and the factors and the objectives of the Muslim League. Now you may please take chapter 6, page number 131. And in the introduction part, that means the first paragraph, it is given that Bipin Chandrapal, one of the assertive nationalist leaders, in his book Memories of My Life and Times, he wrote that the Hindu-Muslim communal problem was not acute during the pre-British rule. That means it was not that much serious before the British rule. And now we will see the causes behind the growth of communalism in India. So in the introduction part itself, we had seen that the communal problems between Hindus and Muslims was not that much common or serious before the British rule, but it came into existence during the time of British rule. And what are the causes for the growth of such a kind of communal problems in India? That we will see now. First one, the British policy of divide and rule. And we had seen the revolt of 1857, and in the revolt of 1857, Hindus and the Muslims had fought shoulder to shoulder. That means they fought together. But after the suppression, the British government, they were successful in suppressing the revolt of 1857, and after that, British officials had taken a vindicative attitude. Vindicative means a attitude to punish the Muslims. But after that, after the revolt, they took a vindicative or punishing attitude towards the Muslims, and they looked upon the Muslims with a suspicion, that means with all doubt. But after 1870, the attitude of British towards the Muslims changed, and with the rise of nationalist movement, the British statesmen grew apprehensive about the stability of their empire in India. Apprehensive means they were so much worried about the stability of their empire in India. And 1857, Hindus and Muslims fought together against the British. And till 1870, the British government looked upon the Muslims with all the doubt and suspicions, and they punished the Muslims. But after that, after 1817, everything got changed. And in order to control the growth of united national feeling in India, that means Hindus and Muslims standing together and fighting against British. So in order to control such a kind of a united national feeling, the British government followed certain policies. The first one was divide and rule. And under the policy of divide and rule, they planned to divide the people along the religious lines. The British officials, they thought that it was better to divide the people on the ground of religion. That means divide the community into Muslims and the Hindus. In other words, to encourage communal and separatist tendencies in Indian politics. So we had seen that 1857 people fought together, Muslims and Hindus fought together. Now the British government, they encouraged the communal and separatist tendencies. That means the Muslims alone and the Hindus alone, they were not together. So the British officials, they were trying to separate these two religious communities on the basis of religion. And in order to attain such a kind of policy, in order to attain or follow the divide and rule policy, they decided to win over to their side the Muslim Zamindars and the newly educated Muslims. So in order to make it out this kind of policy, that is divide and rule, they just won the side with the Muslim Zamindars and the educated Muslims. So they just caught all the Muslims, especially the educated Muslims and the Muslim Zamindars. They started to follow the British officials. And then the colonial government treated the Hindus and the Muslims as a separate communities. What is the reason for this one? In order to put forward the policy of divide and rule. We saw that British followed a divide and rule policy, and for that they promoted the communal and separatist tendencies, and they considered the communal leaders as the official or the authentic representatives of all religions. And they found that after the revolt of 1857, the Congress, it gained more power among the people, so they wanted to reduce the power of Congress, and their hatred towards Congress also grew. And in a way, as the hatred towards the Congress grew, their hatred towards the Hindus also grew, and they just wanted to keep Muslims away from the Congress. Aloof means away from Congress. And because of such a kind of policies from British government, more Muslims, young men, looked to British for the protections of their interest against the Hindu majority. So the Hindu majority was there even in the Congress and even in India. So because of the policies from the British government, the Muslim youth and the Muslim people, the educated one, they thought that the British is supporting them. And in a way, the British policy of divide and rule, and it was something attracted by the Muslims, and they took interest in such a kind of policy because they thought that the British will protect their interest against the Hindu majority. The second point under causes behind the growth of communalism in India is educational and economic backwardness of the Muslims. The last point we had seen, the British, they were trying to develop a communal and separatist trend among the different religions, especially among Hindus and Muslims. And this communal and separatist trend that grew in the minds of Muslims because of several reasons. The important reasons are their backwardness in education, in trade and industry. So the reason for the growth of communal and separatist trend in the mind of Muslims are relative backwardness in education, trade and industry, and then government services. So here now we will see what is the reason behind the traditional backwardness or the relative backwardness of the Muslims. Mostly zamindars and the aristocrats were consisted in the Muslim upper class, and they were against the all kind of British education. And during the first 70 years of 19th century, these Muslims were extremely anti-British and they were against Western education. And due to that, they did not get proper education, and the number of educated Muslims in India remained very small. Because of these things, the Western thought and nationalism did not spread among the Muslim intellectuals. So the Muslims remained the traditional and backward. So what the reason for the communal and separatist trend of thinking grew among the Muslims were backwardness in education, trade and industry, and government services. And the reason for the backwardness is that the Muslims were anti-British during the first 70 years of 19th century. Because of that, they did not get proper Western education, and the Western thought and nationalism did not spread among the Muslims. So they remained traditional and backward. But later, as a result of Said Ahmad Khan, Nawab Abdul Latif, Badruddin Tyabiji and others, the modern education spread among the Muslims. And then also the proportion of the educated were very lower compared to other religions, especially Hindus, Parsis and Christians. The Muslims were backward in education, they were traditional and backward. But because of some influence and the efforts of Said Ahmad Khan and some others, they also got proper education, but the proportion was very less compared to other religious people. And the modern education, that time, the modern education was very essential for entry into the government service. And the Muslims, as we know, they did not get proper Western education and the modern education, so they lagged behind the non-Muslims in this respect. That means they did not get proper government service. Why? Because they didn't have modern education that time. And when the modern education spread among the Muslims, the educated Muslims looked for government jobs. But in India, there were very few opportunities of employment. So earlier the condition was that Muslims were not educated, so they did not get government jobs. But later they also got modern education. Then Muslims also started to try to get more government jobs. But the problem was that there were only few opportunities of employment in government service. Then in that situation, the British officials and the loyalist Muslim leaders easily incited the educated Muslims against the educated Hindus, and they spread the news that it is because of the educated Hindus the Muslims are not getting proper jobs and the government jobs. So such a kind of rumors were spread among the educated Muslims by whom? By the British officials and the loyalist Muslim leaders. Loyalist Muslim leaders means the Muslim leaders who were loyal to Britain or British officials. And it was declared that if the educated Muslims remained loyal to the British, they would be rewarded with government jobs and other special favors. So the teachings by the loyalist Muslim leaders and the British officials were that if the educated Muslims remain loyal to British government and the British policies, then they will get the government jobs and they would be rewarded with the government jobs and other special favors. The third point is that baneful impacts of communal instructions in history. Baneful means deadly or poisonous. Poisonous impacts of communal instructions in history. In those days, highly distorted versions of history were taught in schools and colleges. Distorted means the misleading histories were taught in schools and colleges. And that also contributed for the communalist feeling among the Muslims and the Hindus. And the British historians, they divided the Indian history into two. That means Hindu and Muslim periods. So the history that were taught in the schools were misleading, and the British historians, they divided the history of India into two periods, Hindu and Muslim periods. And in the Hindu period, they wrote the Muslims as foreign invaders who settled down in India as conquerors. And in the Muslim period, they identified the Muslims as rulers and the Hindus are subjected people. By exposing the atrocities committed by the individual rulers, the British historians tried to create hatred among the Hindus against the Muslims and the Muslims against the Hindus. So the period were divided into two, Hindu and Muslim periods. And during the Hindu periods, Muslims came as invaders and settled down in India. And the second period, it was Muslim period, and that time the Muslims were the rulers and the Hindus were the subjects. And during the Hindu period, some of the rulers, they did some atrocities, that means cruelties to the Muslims, and the same way during the Muslims period, some rulers, some individual rulers, they did some kind of cruelty towards the Hindu subjects. So the British officials, they brought such a kind of histories to create hatred among the Hindus against the Muslims and the Muslims against the Hindus. And this created a rift between the two communities. Rift between two communities means break between these two communities. The British historians did not lay stress on the composite culture of India. Composite culture means the mixed. They did not rely and they did not stress upon the composite culture. Instead of that, they divided the history of India into two and they treated these two cultures as separately, not as composite one or the mixed one. That is the baneful impacts of communal instruction in history. The history that were taught in the school were misleading and it divided Muslims and Hindus. The next point is the Hindu resurgence. Resurgence means renewal. In the last chapter, that means assertive nationalism, there we learned during the assertive nationalist period, they gave more importance to Hindu religion and the renewal of the Hindu religion and culture. And the writings and the speeches of the assertive nationalists, it were influenced by Hindu religion, and all the speeches and the writings were a Hindu tinge. Hindu tinge means Hindu color. That means religion and the Hindu tinge were there. That means something connected, everything. The speeches and the writings were connected with the Hindu tradition and the Hindu religion. And in such a kind of speeches, they abandoned the composite culture. So there are some examples given. Tilak, propagation of the Shivaji and the Ganapati festivals. Aurobindo Ghosh's semi-mystical concept of India as mother and nationalism as a religion and the starting point of the anti-partition agitation with the dips in the Ganga could hardly appeal to the Muslims. So it abandoned the ascetic nationalists. They abandoned the elements of composite culture. Tilak promoted Shivaji and Ganapati festival. Then Aurobindo Ghosh's concept of India as a mother and nationalism as a religion, which were against the Muslims' feelings. And during the anti-partition movement, that time they took dips in Ganga that we had seen. Then only they started the movement. So it were also something against the Muslims' religion because Hindus considered Ganga as a sacred river, but for Muslims it was not the same. Then, besides, they could not respond with the full enthusiasm when they saw Rana Pratap or Shivaji being hailed as a national heroes. And that kind of sentiments also were against Muslims because the Muslims, they did not treat Shivaji or Rana Pratap as national heroes, but the ascetic nationalists, they just treated them as the national leaders. And this did not mean that the radical leaders were anti-Muslim. In fact, most of them, including Tilak, favored Hindu-Muslim unity. The assertive nationalists, they were not against the Hindu-Muslim unity, but they were in favor of Hindu-Muslim unity. But the assertive nationalists, they got mostly their inspirations from ancient Indian culture and the Hindu tradition, and they gave a Hindu color to the national movement. So Britishers, they made use of such a kind of opportunity and they took advantage of such a kind of opportunities to poison the minds of Muslims. So because of this mentality from assertive nationalists, many of the educated Muslims, they remained aloof from the rising nationalist movement or became hostile to it. What is the reason? Actually, the assertive nationalists, they were not against the Hindu-Muslim unity, they were supporting Hindu-Muslim unity. But most of their teachings and the speeches were mainly inspired from ancient Indian culture and the Hindu tradition and Hindu culture. So the Britishers, they made use of such a kind of opportunity and poisoned the mind of Muslims. So many of the Muslims, they remained aloof from the national movement. The next point it is the outlook of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. So we had seen that there was a rising of separatist tendency or the communal tendency, and Sir Syed Ahmad played an important role for the development of separatist tendency and the communal tendency in India. And in the beginning, he was also supporting the national movement and he was very liberal and he was not having any kind of communal or the separatist tendency and he was a brave nationalist. And he founded the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College at Aligarh, and after that, the principal of that college, Mr. Beck, influenced the mind of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and he became a communal thinker and he became a separatist thinker. And the outlook of Sir Syed Ahmad changed because of the principal of Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, that is Mr. Beck. And in 1880s, Syed Ahmad declared that the political interest of the Hindus and the Muslims were different and even divergent. Divergent means apart. They are not together, they are totally different. The political interest of Hindus and the Muslims and Hindus and Muslims are different, so they have to work different way. And he preached complete obedience to British rule. He opined that since the Hindus form a larger part of Indian population, they would dominate the Muslims in case of the withdrawal of British rule. So he told his people that the political interest of Hindus and the Muslims were different, and he preached complete obedience to British rule. Why? Because otherwise, if the Britishers in future, if they withdraw from India, then the Hindus would dominate the Muslim community. Why? Because the Hindus were the larger part of the Indian population. Because of that, he told or preached his people that complete obedience to British rule. And he urged Muslims not to join Congress and to remain loyal to the British. Later on, Aligarh College became the center of movement known as the Aligarh movement. The theme of the movement was loyalty, approval, and support of the government. So the main theme of this movement, loyalty towards British government, approval and support of the government. So because of Sir Said Ahmad Khan and through his preaching, he promoted complete obedience to British rule and the British government, and he denied and he told Muslims not to join Congress and the national movement, and instead of that he told his people that remain loyal to the British government and British rule. The next course it is Anglo-Oriental Defence Association, and Anglo-Oriental Defence Association was formed by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, and the main purpose of this association was to promote loyalty towards the rulers and to prevent the Muslims from participating in any political movement. Earlier we have seen that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan preached the political interest of the Hindus and the Muslims were different. So he preached his people not to participate in any political movement against the British government and try to loyal towards the British rulers. So these all are the causes behind the growth of communalism in India. The first one, the British policy of divide and rule. Second one, education and economic backwardness of the Muslims. Third one, baneful impacts of communal instructions in history. Fourth one, the Hindu resurgence. And fourth one, outlook of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. And finally, Anglo-Oriental Defence Association. And next point it is events and factors leading to the formation of the Muslim League, that we will discuss in the next class. Thank you. Have a nice day.